Today, I'm answering your questions about how to start, grow, monetize your newsletter, sell digital products, and more. If you're new here, my name is Matt. I'm the founder of a company called GrowLetter that helps build media companies. We've helped clients add over 10 million newsletter subscribers and over 100 million sales collectively. So, Spencer, what's the first question we should cover?
All right. This is actually from a YouTube comment. So it says, I'm brand new to newsletters. Do you think it's realistically possible to generate 1,000 subscribers in 30 days? What should you focus on, or what should I focus on? And where would you generate leads with a $0 marketing budget?
It is possible, but most people don't do it. I would say it's difficult. I was able to get to my first 1,000 subscribers in about 21 days. Have a lot of people I've helped get there in less than 30 days. A lot of my friends have done it. But I would say I think it's a great target to have, but I wouldn't, feel bad if you don't get there, because what matters is what happens 6, 12 months from now, not the first 30 days of starting your new thing. I've written about this thing called the 1K challenge, and it's all about getting to 1,000 subscribers in 30 days. And I'll explain how that works now. It helps to know what you're writing about. So we're just going to assume this person has some idea of a niche picked out, some idea of a target reader, and they're going to mostly consistently write about that topic. I would also focus entirely on organic growth sources. I wouldn't go out and spend money to acquire subscribers with Facebook ads or anything else, because the newsletter isn't proven yet. You don't even know if people are going to like it. You don't know what the open rate, the click-through rate is going to be. You probably haven't identified a way to monetize it, most likely. So paid acquisition, that entire category of growth channels, we're going to put that aside. And so the organic channels that I would recommend are some type of what I call discovery channels, which are video platforms like YouTube and TikTok, and social media platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and a ton more. To narrow that down a little bit further, there are some platforms that are really hard to start with. YouTube is hard to start with because there's so much production, extra work. Some platforms are hard to grow. Facebook is a hard place to get an audience from scratch and get traffic and subscribers. I think X, actually, or formerly Twitter, is super hard to grow, even though it wasn't that way about 2 or 3 years ago. And so I would really consider focusing on either LinkedIn, Instagram, or possibly TikTok. But I'm a big fan of LinkedIn and Instagram because you can grow an audience from scratch there. You can scale that audience over time. There's a lot of ways you can use those platforms and kind of growth hack them to get people off platform and onto your email list. The reality is everything works. Like, you can build a big newsletter from Pinterest or Facebook. Like, people have done that, but I'm just telling you what I think is best for most people listening. That's the groundwork. Here's what the 1K challenge is. The idea is that you do these tasks on a daily and weekly basis, and you do them for 30 days consistently. And if you follow this for a month, you're going to make a ton of progress in 30 days. So there's daily tasks. And the daily tasks are, you're going to publish one post on one platform. You're going to do 5 to 10 comments on other accounts. You're going to message all of your new followers and connections. So everybody who connects with you or follows you, you're going to message them. And you're going to send 20 connection requests a day to targeted accounts. Then you're going to have weekly tasks. So every week you're going to publish one, what I call a pre-call to action, which is basically a teaser for your newsletter. And this is going to count towards a post. So you don't have to do additional posts. This counts as one post out of the 5 that you're doing per week. You're going to publish one comment to get giveaway, which also counts as one post. And you're going to publish, of course, one newsletter. I highly recommend you start with an email newsletter. And if you use a platform like Beehive or Kit or Substack, when you publish a newsletter, you can also seamlessly publish a blog at the same time, which is basically just a web version of that newsletter. So you're going to publish a newsletter and a blog post, which is the same content. So your daily task, and we'll put this up on screen, your daily tasks are Monday through Friday, and your weekly tasks are once a week. And we're going to do this over 4 weeks. I want to help you build an audience from scratch on one social platform. And these tasks are designed to help you convert the views and the followers that you get into newsletter subscribers. I've done this myself. I've helped other people do it. So it works. We're using one social platform because if we try and scatter our focus across a ton, we're actually going to see results slower. So focus is key to growing fast. We already talked about what platform to pick. Now let's talk about how to actually execute those daily and weekly tasks. Okay, so I'll start with the weekly task. So publish one pre-CTA, and this is called a teaser. So it's basically a post where you share what your newsletter covers, like what you're going to cover in that newsletter around 24 hours before you publish that newsletter. And the idea of this is it's teasing the content, and people feel like they're going to miss out on it if they don't subscribe. So it's a really great way to use call to actions on social media. Let's say I'm publishing a newsletter tomorrow on email deliverability. Well, I'm going to tease all the cool stuff that I'm teaching people on that. And I'm going to say, hey, if you want to learn all this stuff and if you want to get these tactics, go to the link in my bio and subscribe to my newsletter, and I'll send it to you when it goes out tomorrow. Okay, that's a pre-call to action. So you're going to do one of those a week. You're going to do one comment to get giveaway a week. If you've been on LinkedIn or Instagram, you've probably seen a lot of these. So basically, what it is you're going to do a post that basically just promotes a lead magnet of yours. So you're going to talk about a certain strategy or tactic or how cool something is. And then you can say, hey, I wrote a guide about this thing, or I created the checklist or a cheat sheet or an ebook or whatever you want to call it. And then if you want it, comment one word and I'll send it to you. So that one word is going to be related to what the post is about. I did one the other day, which was actually about getting your first 1,000 subscribers. And I said, hey, comment 1K and I'll DM it to you. The key with this is these comment to get giveaways, they're all based around a lead magnet, right? But you don't need to create a brand new lead magnet to do one of these. What I like to do is I like to use the newsletters that I've published as lead magnets. So I've done newsletters about paid ads, for example, and I've shared like my top 10 Facebook ads that worked for us in that newsletter. And I'll use a tool like Beehive, and other tools can do this too, to put that newsletter behind an email gate where people have to enter their email address to read the newsletter. And so I'll write my comment to get post all about what's inside of that newsletter. And I'll say, if you want it, comment ads, and I'll DM it to you. And then I just DM people the link to the email gated newsletter. And then they click that and they have to enter their email address to read it. The reason this is so powerful is because, one, you're just repurposing content you already have. And if it's not a newsletter, it could be like another thing that you've created before. It could be like a small part of your course or your paid product, or some other resource that you can create very quickly. So you're repurposing what you already have into a lead magnet. You're obviously capturing people's emails in exchange for getting that thing. It's a way to incentivize subscribers. And then you're creating this viral loop where people comment on the post, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn or something else, to get the thing. And every time they comment, that post usually gets more and more reach. I've seen people who have like no following on LinkedIn, and they do a really good comment ticket giveaway with a well-written post and a great lead magnet, and they'll get over 2,000 comments. I've had multiple posts where I've done this, where I've gotten over 1,000 comments and a lot of email subscribers from that, because me, or in our case, it's a virtual assistant, is DMing all those comments the lead magnet, and then they subscribe to get it. You're going to do one of those per week, and ideally it's from your newsletter. That's a long explanation. Then, of course, we're going to publish one newsletter a week. And then the daily tasks are a lot more straightforward. We're going to publish one post on one platform. And what I recommend that you do is repurpose your newsletter. So if you're writing one newsletter a week, it might be 500, 1,000 or more words. And you can probably turn that one newsletter into at least 3 posts on LinkedIn, for example. And then you're already doing the call to action teaser, and you're already doing the one comment to get giveaway per week. So now you're up to 5 posts a week, just like that. So you basically have 3 posts that are more about adding value and 2 posts that are more about getting people onto your newsletter. If you can do more posts, that's great. But again, if you're just starting, you don't want to overextend yourself. The other daily tasks are 5 to 10 comments on other accounts. This is maybe not as important for something like Instagram, but on LinkedIn, connecting with other creators and getting them to then view and like your account really helps boost your reach and also helps you build relationships. Messaging all of your new followers and connections. This is something tedious, but it works really well, especially if you're trying to get to 1,000, because every subscriber counts. And so I like to send a message kind of like this. We'll put it on screen, but it's like, hey, thanks for the follow. Thanks for connecting with me. If you're looking for my best content on whatever topic you cover, I only share it with my newsletter subscribers. You can sign up for one email link here, and then you send them a link to your newsletter. And that should be up on screen, so you can kind of copy and paste that or duplicate that for yourself. That doesn't sound very complicated, but if someone already follows you or already connected with you, they're basically like a warm lead. And we've been able to convert 30 to 50% of people who follow us with a simple message like that. So it is time consuming, but it goes a long way when you're trying to get your first 1,000, because every subscriber counts. And like just by doing that one tactic, can get 100, 200, 300 subscribers just from that. And then another thing I'd recommend on LinkedIn is to send 20 targeted connections per day to other accounts who are like a good fit for your content. That's only really relevant to LinkedIn, because if someone is connected with you, they're way more likely to see your content. And if someone connects with you on LinkedIn, LinkedIn also counts them as a follower. So you technically get more followers without them actually clicking the follow button. They just accept your connection request. So that's basically the 1K challenge. And if you want to read the full thing, we have a whole guide on every little detail of this and how to do it step by step. We'll put a link in the description below. But that does take time. That takes like, approximately 10, maybe 15 hours per week. But if you really want to get to 1K in 30 days, that is how you do it. It is hard. You can probably dial back on the content a little bit after your first 30 days, but I would encourage you really go all out for 30 days. Do a challenge like this. Ideally, you copy it exactly, and you'll get there way faster versus just kind of throwing things out into the wind and hoping something sticks.
That was awesome. Thanks, Matt. All right, follow up on that. As you kind of choose a newsletter topic, how niche is too niche?
Probably there's not too niche, especially if you're just starting. This is advice for the people starting. If you already have a 7, 8 figure business, I mean, you need to go more broad over time. But generally, people never make the mistake of going too niche. They usually go too broad. My framework for this is I like to kind of pick a niche or a topic, and then I go 2 levels deeper within that topic. So, just my personal example is I've worked in media for a long time, and so the niche I serve is media. But when I first started my newsletter, I went two levels deeper. So below media is newsletters, and below newsletters is newsletter growth. And so when I first started, like, I labeled myself the newsletter growth guy. I've since expanded, and I only talked about how to get more people on your email list, how to get more newsletter subscribers exclusively for at least 6 months or maybe even 12 months. And then over time I expanded. And that's what pretty much every creator does, is they start almost too niche and then they broaden over time. What I try and do is just, you want to be the go-to person for something, even if it's really small. And so for me, that was newsletter growth. For you, that could be like a certain type of a calligraphy, or like a style of interior design. I mean, you want to go a niche within a niche. And that would be my perspective on that.
Awesome. Our next question is, how do you begin to think about partnerships and kind of cross promotions with newsletters? Maybe starting out, maybe longer down the journey of growing your newsletter, but how do you begin to think of partnerships and cross promotions?
Yeah. So how do we use other newsletters to grow your newsletter, your email list? Okay, this is a cool tactic. I think this is really underutilized, but you have to do it the right way. And most people have no clue how to do one of these. And they go out and they try it and they're like, oh, this was a horrible experience. It didn't work. That I'm just gonna throw that tactic out and never touch it again. And they missed out on probably the way to get the highest quality leads and readers out there, because people who read newsletters and click newsletters. So if like they did that for another newsletter on kind of your ad in that newsletter or your feature in that newsletter, they're going to do it for you too. And so oftentimes, I mean, it's hard to get tens of thousands of subscribers like this, but the subscribers you do get, they're going to buy, they're going to have like 70, 80% open rate, 20% click through rate. Like the engagement and the lifetime value of those subscribers is off the chart. So that's one thing to start with. Okay, so how do you do cross promotions? Well, one, it's not good for those who have 0 subscribers, right? You have to have some audience. I think it's better for the newsletters with 5 to 10,000 subscribers or more. There's no ceiling. There's newsletters that have 1 million+ subscribers who do cross promotions, and it's a great channel for them. So that's one. Then you have to identify who you want to have a partnership with, and you probably want to make a list of at least 10 different newsletters who are similar to you. Like, you have a similar audience, but you're not competitive. Like, the content you cover is relatively different, so you don't kind of rub up against each other the wrong way. Then you're going to reach out to them and talk about how like a cross promotion partnership is going to be mutually beneficial. Talk about how great the subscriber quality will be. Talk about how you're easy to work with, stuff like that. And then you want to outline the terms. And this is where most people get it totally wrong, because they do like a post for a post. Essentially, they're like, hey, I'll put an ad for you in my newsletter that's like 50 words, and you put an ad for me in your newsletter that's 50 words. But you never get equal outcomes, because the newsletters are always going to be different sizes. Even if they're similar sizes, they're going to have different open rates, different click-through rates. And so one person will get 200 subscribers and another person will get 80 subscribers. And the person who gets less feels like they got the short end of the stick, and it's unfair. And so how do you make that fair? Well, you have to say that we are going to match the unique clicks that we send each other. So we're going to do like this little blurb in the newsletter for each other. And then 5 days later, we're going to report on how many unique clicks that promotion got. And then if someone gets less, they're going to do another promotion until we match each other the best we can. And you could say like until we match each other like more or less 10%. And so if you do a promotion, you send 200 clicks and they do one, they send 100 clicks, they need to do another promotion to make up for that, because that's the only way it's fair. If the person does not agree to that, don't work with them, because the cross promotion is not going to work. And so that's how you do it. If you find the right people and you do it that way, you're going to crush it. The reality is you're not going to have a dozen different cross promotion partners. You're probably only going to find 2 to 3 that are a really good fit, but keep doing it with them on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, and you'll have some great growth partners in the long run.
Awesome. All right, shifting gears a little bit regarding open rates, click rates, and kind of the change of iOS settings in the last couple of years, the increase of bots. How do you, Matt McGarry, the newsletter guy, begin to think about this? I know last week we actually talked about kind of what metrics to focus on in terms of list quality, but how are you thinking about this as a broader scheme in terms of newsletter quality and tracking metrics?
Yeah, a lot of people won't know about this who are listening. So basically, open rates, really for the past almost over 3 years now, they're very inaccurate because if people use Apple Mail and other providers too, Apple will automatically open emails and it will count it as open even though the user didn't actually open that email. Clicks can be very inaccurate too because bots will click links in emails, and usually these are like good bots. You know, they're bots that are corporate firewalls or student email address firewalls, and they're checking for malicious links and spam and phishing attempts, and so they'll click every link in an email, and so a lot of your link clicks will not be from real people. Same thing with opens, right? Both those metrics are unreliable. Most people think open rate first, click through rate second, because that's how it's presented to them in their email software. I always think, at least out of those two, click through rate is number one, open rate's a distant number two at that point. Because again, clicks can come from bots. It's more accurate than opens. And also, there are a lot of tools like Beehive, which we'll put a link in the description for down below if you want 20% off. But Beehive will show you your verified clicks versus your total clicks. So they'll do their best to filter out the bot clicks because they're more easy to identify than the bot opens. So that's number one. And if you're someone who's just like, oh, I don't have a lot of links in my newsletter, I don't promote anything, well, I would highly consider changing the format and the style of your newsletter to make it more clickable. That's going to make you more money in every conceivable way in the long run. It's also going to help improve your deliverability and your inbox placement in the inbox. So it's going to keep you out of promotions when your emails are being clicked on more than others. But frankly, like open rate, click through rate are very superficial. What really matters is revenue. So if you're selling a product in the newsletter, promoting something, how many sales did you get from that? How many qualified leads? That should be your North Star if you're selling a product or a service. I wouldn't worry about open rate and click through rate too much, but you do want to stay above a certain like benchmark level. Like I like to have for my newsletter north of a 50% open rate, north of a 5% click through rate. And when I get below that, I start to think about how do I improve my list quality. But my number one goal is, more business metrics, like qualified leads and sales. If you're selling sponsorships, well, the only thing that really matters is the verified link clicks that your sponsor gets in the ad inside your newsletter. And so those are your like North Star metrics. Open rate and click through rate secondary. And then the final thing I like to look at is just audience feedback. So we always have a poll in our newsletter where there's 3 questions about how people like it. We'll put that up on screen now. And then oftentimes we'll ask people to reply with questions or feedback. And that's not as analytical, but it's helpful to see what the poll response was and what positive feedback we're getting. If I put a lot of work into a post, I'll get more of that. And I like to have that two-way communication between me and the readers and not just feel like I'm broadcasting to people without getting any real feedback.
Awesome. All right, next up, this is actually a YouTube comment. How many links is too many links on a newsletter? Maybe you're an aggregator of local events. It's a local newsletter of some fashion. Maybe it's something totally else. It's deals and promos. How does that impact deliverability? How do you think about too many links being on a newsletter? Or is that not even a problem?
It's usually not a problem. I'm sure there's a threshold, and I don't know what it is at the top of my head. I don't know every single deliverability rule and guideline off the dome, right? But I think if you're under 30, you're probably fine. But the reality is, like some of the answers are going to be like a black box. It's kind of like asking like, what's the best type of post for the Facebook or the Instagram algorithm? Like they don't really share that with us. Just like the mailbox providers and the people who run those things, they don't always share exact guidelines for these types of things. But I think in that range, you're going to be fine.
Awesome. All right, another YouTube comment, pretty specific here, but let's jump into it. So he's got a newsletter list for people looking for business ideas, about 10,000 subs right now. Vibe coded a SaaS database tool, plans to charge about $120, $200 for that tool. Have you seen this business model work out? And what challenges or opportunities would you kind of recommend there?
I've seen a lot of people start businesses and newsletters around delivering aspiring founders business ideas. I think a lot of them have copied trends.co, which isn't around anymore, but that was a product actually from a company that I used to work at called The Hustle. It was kind of like that. We did north of $15 million in annual recurring revenue just with that product, or about identifying trends that you could launch a business on top of, not necessarily ideas. And there's like the My First Million podcast. There's a couple other podcasts that now have similar types of content that have kind of pioneered that type of content. And people are trying to like make it work in a newsletter. And I generally think this category is really tough because I don't think people pay for ideas. You're paid, how you monetize is not going to be related to ideas. I think you can attract an audience of great ideas through like a free newsletter of ideas, social post about the ideas and the trends, podcast with ideas and trends. But I don't think that's how you're going to monetize. I think it needs to be something else. I don't think it's like, hey, we share 5 ideas in our free newsletter. Do you want the newsletter with 15 ideas every week? Because like people will get overwhelmed and they're really just looking for one good idea so they can launch a business. And so what I would think about is what's the next problem that they're going to have? The problem that you solve with your free content is you help them find a business idea. Well, what happens when they have an idea that they want to start and they want to execute on that and get users and customers and launch the business? Well, then they run into different types of problems. And selling them more ideas isn't going to solve those different problems. You have to sell them a different type of thing to solve those new problems that your free content creates. And so I think having a course on like how to launch a business in general and get your first, 100 customers, that would make sense. Having a coaching program on how to launch a business, how to maybe having a subscription. I'm not a fan of subscriptions. I think this is more of a one-time problem that you'll fix with a one-time payment. But that would work better. Or if you have some expertise in a certain type of business style, maybe you share ideas that are in all different types of niches and industries, and you share ideas for starting newsletters and SaaS businesses and local businesses. But maybe you've successfully built a home service business before. You could have a product that just teaches people how to do that business model, and people will buy that much more than a general course about how to get your first 1,000 users for any business. People generally don't buy like how to build a business courses or products. They buy like how to launch a newsletter, how to launch a landscaping business. And then they buy it from someone who has deep expertise and credibility doing that before. I'm not giving you a specific solution here because I don't have one, but like these are the types of problems I see with the business that you have. And those are solutions you can go into that I would encourage. Another option is advertising, but the reality is like you have to have a really large audience to build a large advertising business. So you're not going to be making a lot of money from ads in the newsletter until you have 50,000, 100,000 subscribers. That really takes time, and not every newsletter can or should get there. So that's it. Anything else I should add to that, Spencer? Your thoughts?
No, I thought you handled that. That was a great answer.
Yeah. And if you have a follow up, let us know. I mean, we don't get millions of questions, so hit us up in the
Yeah.
comments below.
And a recommendation for everybody else, if you have a question that you'd like Matt to answer, drop it in the YouTube comments and we will answer the following week. Awesome. So what do you see for the next kind of big shift in newsletters, maybe over the next 2 to 3 years? So less so kind of direct growth tactics right now, but like just larger shifts in the industry that you might kind of see come in the next couple of years.
There's a lot I could say, both like tactically and strategically. I think we're going to see a lot of shorter newsletters if I want to get more like tactical and with a simple answer. A lot of people have gone super long trying to emulate Morning Brew, trying to emulate me and many others. I love Alex Hormozi's newsletter, Mosey Money Minute. Hopefully we can get an image of it here where it's like a one tactic that takes 1 minute to read. And I think more people would do stuff like that because the reality is like for most people, the newsletter is not going to be your business. The newsletter is going to be like a hub where you can publish great content every week that helps warm up new leads and win back old leads and get them to buy something. Most people are not going to have a newsletter first media business where they only make money through ads in the newsletter. And I've written about this a ton. I have a video on my YouTube channel called Newsletters Are Dead, which they're not. That's the answer to that question. But it goes into like why newsletter advertising businesses are not the future and why using a newsletter holistically to build your entire business and to sell products and services from your newsletter audience is the future. So I still believe that 5 years from now, an email audience, if it's engaged and trust you, it's going to be the most valuable place to have an audience. I think more valuable than YouTube, podcast, or anywhere else. I don't think that's going to change. I think the way a newsletter fits into the business will be different. Like people will still have podcasts, still have YouTube. They'll still use email marketing, SMS marketing, but they won't just try and build a business just on advertising alone. They'll try and build products on top of their newsletter, on top of their YouTube channel. That's what we're doing at our companies. There's a lot we could say to it. So shorter newsletters. I think weekly newsletters are here to stay. I think most people, I think a lot of people who have like a daily or a 3 time a week newsletter now are going to cut back to weekly because signal over noise is really important in the inbox. And I think newsletters are a channel to grow your business. Newsletters are not the entire business model for most people. There are some exceptions because we do know some companies like the Pour Over and 1440 Media who have built 7, 8-figure, highly profitable businesses from just the newsletter and newsletter advertising. I think those people are going to keep crushing it. But most people are not going to be able to master that model for a variety of reasons. But that's my overall take.
All right. Do you see opportunity for newsletter aggregators and how will that market expand over time?
Okay, well, I think what it says the last one. So newsletter aggregators meaning this. There's a couple different things this can mean. Like you subscribe to a service where like it's like a newsletter reader. Like I put all my newsletters in this app, and then I read them all there.
Yeah, I was thinking elsewhere in terms of private equity scooping up a bunch of different newsletters, but I'm
Oh, okay. That's entirely.
in terms of the software to aggregate, because I do think there's opportunity there. There's been a couple players in the space. So feel free, whichever one you want to answer here.
Well, I haven't seen as many examples of private equity roll ups of newsletter first media companies. Private equity has definitely done that for digital media companies of all types. And the reality is, like, it's a fairly new thing, really focusing on newsletter as a primary channel in a media business. So I don't think there's as many businesses that are at the revenue level that private equity would want to look at to acquire them. I mean, there's like 1440. I mean, Morning Brew was brought by a private equity company, but private equity usually doesn't go down to that level. Like, they're looking at, like, I'm going to do a roll up of media companies, or I'm going to do a roll up of home service businesses. And like, they think about you in one category. They don't think about newsletters as a category. Even with home services, like, there's plumbing, there's HVAC, there's a bunch of different home services. They'll just put them all into one category and roll them all up. And they don't care too much about the individual types of businesses as long as the financials are good and all the other metrics make sense for an acquisition. So that's why I don't think we'll see that. I think we'll see more media roll-ups. I don't think we'll see newsletter-specific roll-ups. I could be wrong, but not at the private equity level. Now, it's almost like another question.
Yeah.
Should there be should people be concerned about like apps that are aggregating newsletters and acting as newsletter readers, where like, are people just going to read your newsletter through that app and not in the inbox? And if they do, then your newsletter readers are less valuable because you're not in the inbox. Maybe there's way more distractions between a bunch of other newsletters. And like, there's been a couple people trying to do this. I think there's Miko. I mean, Substack kind of does stuff like this. I haven't actually thought about it a lot, but it's something I wouldn't be concerned about. I would say, because it's been tried so many times before and no one's ever been successful, I just don't think it's something that the consumer wants. I don't think it's something that solves a problem. Like, I think Gmail or Apple Mail or whatever thing you use, I think that provides a really good experience to read newsletters in, and you don't need a dedicated app. You don't really need to discover newsletters, because you're going to discover content on social media and on YouTube, and a lot of those content creators and publishers, they're going to have newsletters. So if you want more of the content, you're just going to subscribe to their newsletter and you're just going to read it in your inbox. So I don't think there's a place in the market for a dedicated newsletter reader, like an app, most likely. So I don't think it's something people should be concerned about.
It's a great answer.
It's also a product I wouldn't try and build. Like,
Yeah.
some people have approached me about investing in their newsletter reader, and like, I wish them luck. I'm sure there's a way it could work possibly. I just don't think it's going to be a big business. It's also technically challenging too. Anyways, hope that wasn't too boring of a question to end it on. But yeah, okay, that's it. Subscribe if you like this. Ask a question below, and we'll see you next time.